Hello dear students, welcome to Chinmoy's YouTube channel. This is my introductory lesson for the class 8 students. So this is your first lesson, transport of food and minerals and plants. So we will be starting with this lesson. So I have divided this lesson into part 1 and part 2. So let us start with today's episode. Now, what are the learning objectives of today's lesson? At the end of this lesson, we will be knowing about the structure and function of xylem and phloem. We will be knowing about osmosis, diffusion, active transport, transpiration absorption, and factors affecting rate of transpiration, importance of transpiration, and macro and micronutrients. So as this is a huge lesson, this transport of food and minerals I have divided into two parts. So in part 1 we will be studying till the active transport, and in part 2 we will study about the transpiration absorption, factors affecting the rate of transpiration, importance of transpiration, macro and micronutrients. So if you want to learn more in this lesson, so you need to subscribe to my channel. Please do subscribe to my channel for more updates to complete this lesson and the upcoming lessons which I'll be posting. So you need to subscribe to my channel and please stay tuned and stay updated with the lessons which I am posting as per your ICSE 8th curriculum. So if you are having any comments, any doubts, any queries, please do write in my comment box. So let us start with today's lesson of transport of food and minerals and plants. First, when talking about the transport of food and minerals, we should talk about the vascular system. So what is the vascular system? Now we can say that plants such as pine, coconut, neem, rose and grass, they have an elaborate transport system that carries water and minerals and food throughout the plant body. So these are the plants which are having an important transport system. So transport system of this is, and the similar higher plants are called the vascular system. So transport system has been given another name that is called the vascular system. Now primitive plants like mosses and ferns, they do not have any vascular system like other higher plants do have. Right, is it clear to everyone? So primitive plants, they are not having any vascular system. And a well-developed vascular system is always composed of two components which are very important, that is xylem and phloem. So these are the main two components of the vascular system which is helping to transport the food, water, minerals to different parts of the plant body. So these are the main two parts of the vascular system. Now we are going to study about these in details. Here comes the first component of vascular system, that is the xylem. So what is xylem doing? Now xylem is transporting the water and minerals upwards from the roots. So it is transporting the water and minerals upwards from the roots, and it is a very complex tissue. It consists of both living and non-living cells. So it is consisting of both living and non-living cells. So what are the main parts of a xylem tissue? So first one, we can say that it is composed of xylem vessels, then comes the tracheids, then comes xylem fibers, and then comes xylem parenchyma. So what are xylem vessels? The xylem vessels and tracheids, they are actually xylem. We can say that xylem vessels are long cylindrical cells. Now if you see this diagram, you can see that these are the vessel elements. These are xylem vessels which are long cylindrical cells which are joined end to end. So they are joined end to end and they are forming a long tube. Their walls, these walls, they are made up of lignin. So we can say that they are having lignified walls. So they are having lignified walls. So they are having lignified walls, which means that their walls contain lignin. So it means that their walls are containing lignin. Okay, and lignin makes these cells stiff and provide the support. So lignin is making them stiff and they are providing structural support. So what is this lignin doing? It is providing structural support. Is it clear? It is providing structural support. Now what are tracheids? Now tracheids, if you come here, you can see they are also tubular cells, but they are having tapering ends. These are tubular cells, but these are having tapering ends, and the cell walls here also, they are thickened with lignin. So in the xylem vessels also the cell walls are made up of lignin, whereas in the tracheids also the cell walls are made up of lignin. Okay, so this lignin is providing support, structural support in case of both xylem vessels and tracheids. Now what are these xylem fibers doing? The xylem fibers are also thick-walled cells. Now xylem fibers, these are also thick-walled cells that provide mechanical support to the plant. We have told that they are providing mechanical support to the plant, whereas xylem parenchyma cells, Xylem parenchyma cells, they are storing water, minerals and carbohydrates, okay, for the future use. Now xylem vessels and tracheids, they are transporting water and minerals upwards. Xylem fibers, they are thick walled and they are providing mechanical support to the plants. Tracheid, they are tubular cells but they are having tapering ends, and their cell walls are also made up of lignin. Now here we can say that in this all parts only the xylem parenchyma is the living component. Other than that, other three parts are non-living. Okay, other than xylem parenchyma, the xylem vessels, tracheids and xylem fibers, they are all non-living and they all are providing mechanical support to the plant cell. Is it clear? So they all are providing mechanical support to the plant, and xylem parenchyma, it is helping to store water, minerals and carbohydrates. Okay, so this is all about the xylem tissue or xylem. Okay, is it clear? Now we will move on to the phloem. Now what is this part of the vascular system doing? This is the second part, that is the phloem. So it is the food conducting tissue in plants. Now it is a food material which is moving through the phloem to both the directions. So the food is moving both the directions. So what are the components of this phloem? So four elements are making this phloem. First one is the seep tube, then the companion cells, then the phloem parenchyma, and then the phloem fibers. Now let us refer to the diagram. So I have given the label diagram in each and everything. So you should refer to the diagram and please do study each and every label diagram, so that it is very much important for your diagrams also. Either they can give you the diagram and tell you to label the parts, or it can be like a picture study. So you need to identify the parts, which one is the phloem parenchyma, which one is companion cell, sieve tube, sieve plate, and same in case of the xylem tissues. Okay, so please follow my teachings and try to learn accordingly. Now next you can say that now, what are the functions of the sieve tubes? Sieve tubes, they are elongated tubular cells placed end to end like tubes. Now, these sieve tubes, they are actually elongated tubular cells. They are placed end to end. So, just to see the diagram, these are placed end to end. These sieve tubes, their end walls have minute pores and are called sieve plates. So, their end walls are having this, you can say that they are having minute plates. So, this is the sieve tube. Their end walls, they are having minute pores and they are called sieve plates. Okay, is it clear? So their end walls have minute pores and they are called sieve plates. So first in this sieve tube only we are getting at the end of that part is the sieve plate. Now at maturity what is happening? At maturity the sieve tubes lack the nuclei and they have very few organelles. Now this limits actually their function to just transporting the food material. So they can't do any other function apart from transporting the food materials. Now next comes the companion cells, the second part, or the companion cells, which are located on the sides of the sieve tube. So you can see that this is the sieve tube, and on the side of the sieve tubes there are companion cells. On the side of the sieve tubes are the companion cells which are located on the either side of the sieve tubes. Now they also help in the conduction of food material. So they are helping the sieve tubes in the conduction of food material. They are smaller than the other cells and have prominent nuclei. So these companion cells, you can see in this diagram, they are having prominent nuclei. So prominent nuclei is present in the companion cells and they are actually helping the sieve tube for the conduction of the food material. Now next comes the phloem parenchyma. So phloem parenchyma is the part which is storing the food. So it is the cell which is storing the food. Now next comes the phloem fibers, which is providing mechanical support. Next comes the phloem fibers. So these are providing the mechanical support to the plant and they are made up of sclerenchyma cells. So phloem fibers are made up of sclerenchyma cells. Sclerenchyma cells. They are made up of sclerenchyma cells. So phloem fibers, they are providing mechanical support to the plant and they are providing they are actually made up of sclerenchyma cells. So what are the functions of this? So these all are main function is transporting the food manufactured by the leaves and by the young green stems to different parts of the plant body. Now phloem parenchyma cells, we have told that they are storing the food. Phloem parenchyma cells, they are storing the food. These parenchyma cells, they are storing the food, and phloem fibers, they are providing mechanical support to the, these are providing the mechanical support. Okay, these are providing mechanical support. Parenchyma, they are storing the food, and next comes the phloem fibers, which are also providing the mechanical support. So this is all about the xylem and phloem. Now we will discuss about the differences between the xylem and phloem. Now we should know the difference between xylem and phloem. So what are the main differences between xylem and phloem? First of all, we can say that xylem, it is transporting water and minerals from roots to aerial parts of the plant, and phloem, what is it doing? It is transporting the food materials from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Now it is mostly made up of dead cells. So xylem, it is mostly made up of dead cells, and phloem, it is mostly made up of the living cells. So xylem, it is mostly made up of dead cells, and phloem, it is always, we can say that most parts of the phloem is the living part other than the phloem fibers. So phloem fibers are exceptional. They are the dead parts, and other three, that is, we can say that the sieve plates, the companion cells, and the phloem parenchyma, all are living cells. Whereas in xylem, only the xylem parenchyma is the living part, whereas others are all dead cells. Now, it forms the vascular bundles with the phloem. The xylem forms the vascular bundles with the phloem, whereas the vascular bundles with the xylem, these phloems are forming. Now, xylem, it is located towards the inner side of the vascular bundle, and phloem, it is located on the outer side of the vascular bundle. So these are the main four differences within the xylem and phloem. So xylem is located in the inner side of the vascular bundle, and phloem is located in the outside of the vascular bundle. So let us move on to the next one. Now, absorption of water and minerals. So plants are absorbing water and minerals from the soil. So from the soil, how they are absorbing? They are absorbing with the help of the root hair cells, which are unicellular. They are thin-walled outgrowths of the epidermis, which is the outermost layer of the root. Now they greatly increase the surface area for the absorption of, they are greatly increasing the surface area for the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil, and they are continuously replaced by new cells that are formed near the root tip. They are continuously replaced by the new cells that are formed near the root tips. Now, these are actually the root hair cells, which are unicellular. They are thin-walled outgrowths of the epidermis, and which are absorbing the, which are in the outermost layer of the root. Now, we can say that absorption of water, how it is happening? It is by the process of osmosis. So we should know what is the process of osmosis and diffusion in details. So now, water is absorbed by the root hair cells. I've already told earlier. So water is absorbed by the process of osmosis. So what is osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water through a semi-permeable membrane from an area of its higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. So what is a semi-permeable membrane? We should know that first. So it is actually a thin membrane. This is a semi-permeable membrane. So this is a thin membrane. It is a thin membrane, and it is allowing the movement of selective molecules. So all the molecules are unable to enter through this membrane. It is allowing a selective movement of the membranes from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Like we can say that cellophane paper or an egg membrane are the examples of semi-permeable membrane. So like cellophane papers, we can say that cellophane paper or the egg membrane. So these are examples of semi-permeable membrane through which the water will flow selectively. Some molecules will flow from the region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So this is called osmosis. So by this only absorption of water takes place in the roots. So the water is coming from the outside of the roots where the concentration is higher in the soil. From the soil to the root of the plant cells, it is coming from a region of higher to lower concentration. Now steps, we can say that concentration of water molecules outside in the soil is usually higher than inside the root hair cell. So this is causing the movement of water by the process of osmosis from the soil to the root hair cells. Just follow the diagram. So water enters the root hairs by osmosis, and this causes osmosis, and so the water is absorbed by the root hair cells from outside. Now again, what is happening in the next step? Water passes across the root from the cell to cell by osmosis, and it also seeps in between the cells. Now when it is moving in between the cell, then again the concentration of this cell will be higher than the next cell. So it is constantly moving from a region of higher concentration to the lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Now thus the water is drawn up the xylem vessels because the transpiration is constantly removing the water from the top of the plant, that is from the leaves, from the stems. The transpiration is happening, and so water is drawn up the xylem vessels because the transpiration is constantly removing the water from the top of these cells. So we are constantly in a need of water in the plant, so that the water is being absorbed constantly from the roots to the cells to the leaves. So this is a constant process, and the water is constantly being absorbed. Is it clear to all? Now let us move on to the next one. Now here we have taken an experiment, that is to show the process of osmosis. So how we will show the process of osmosis? Now we have taken a potato, that is a potato tuber, and we have taken a beaker, we have taken water. So water, it's actually a strong sugar solution, and we have cut one end of the potato tuber to make it flat. So that potato tuber has become flat, and we have scooped out the potato to make a cylindrical cavity. Now we have poured a strong sugar solution inside this cavity. So inside this cavity a strong sugar solution is there, and we have marked the initial part till where we have poured the sugar solution with a pin. And this setup, it's actually called the potato osmoscope. This setup with the potato with this beaker is called the potato osmoscope. And we have placed the osmoscope in a beaker containing a red color. Now here we have put a blue colored solution. Whether it is blue or it is red, we are putting a colored solution in this beaker. Now after a few hours, we have seen that the level of the sugar solution that is rising in the osmoscope, and it becomes, here we can say that it becomes red. So outside we have put a, we can say that we have put a red colored or a blue colored solution in the beaker, and after a few hours we have seen that the level of the sugar solution inside this potato has risen up to a certain level. So we have marked the initial level with the pin, and now we have marked the final level also with the pin. So the level of the sugar solution, why it rises? Because of the osmosis. So the water molecules, they are moving through the cell membrane of the potato cells from the region of higher concentration, that is from the outside, to a region of lower concentration area, that is inside. Now the cell membranes of potato, actually the potato cells, they act as a semi-permeable membrane, and the water from the outside of the beaker, it is seeping into inside the potato, and so the level of the sugar solution inside the potato osmoscope, it's rising. So this is how we can prove that osmosis is happening through a semi-permeable membrane, where the semi-permeable membrane is nothing but the potato itself, through which the selectively some amount of water from outside is seeping inside. So this is the experiment to prove that osmosis is happening. So osmosis is happening, and so the colored solution from outside, it is inserting the potato osmoscope. Now we will move on to the absorption of minerals. Now absorption of minerals. Now most of the minerals that are needed by the plants are dissolved in water in the soil. So what are the main minerals which are being dissolved in the water in the soil? So we can say that some of these are calcium. Actually these are calcium, potassium, magnesium, and the major form, it is called nitrogen also, which are some of the minerals which are dissolved in the soil, and we need this. Now the absorption of these minerals by the roots is by the process of diffusion or active transport. So how the diffusion is happening? Now we can say that sometimes the concentration of minerals is higher in the soil and then inside of the root hair cells. So this is when the root hair cells, they absorb the minerals by diffusion. And diffusion, what is diffusion? Now these movement of the molecules from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration, it is not through a semi-permeable membrane. It is just, we can say that diffusion is the movement of salt and minerals from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So thus these minerals are being transported from the soil to the root hairs. Now next comes the active transport. So normally minerals are concentrated inside the root hair cells now than outside. Now still the root hair cells, they are keeping on absorbing them for this they use the process of active transport, that is the movement of mineral ions from a region of lower concentration again to a region of higher concentration. And this process always involves the use of energy, that is ATP. Okay, so the active transport is the opposite of diffusion, and it lists we can say that the movement of mineral ions from a region of lower concentration to the higher concentration with the use of ATP is called the active transport, and it is actually opposite to that of diffusion. And we should know the main differences between the osmosis, diffusion, and whereas diffusion and active transport. So these are very important for you. We will discuss on that also. Now see this diagram. This is how the minerals are being absorbed, which are dissolved in water in the soil. They are being absorbed by the root cells, root hair cells, and thus they are being transported by the process of diffusion upwards. So this is the flow of minerals from outside the root hair cells to the root hair cells and towards the leaves or towards the stem of the plant. Now root hairs, they transport of water and minerals, and which is leading to the ascent of sap. So how it is happening, let us see this diagram and let us just discuss it. Now we can say that the root hairs absorb the mineral salts, minerals by the active transport, we know that, and the mineral salts then reach the root cortex. Now we can say as the mineral salts get accumulated in the xylem, so it's being accumulated in the xylem, and this creates a concentration gradient, that is a difference in the pressure, and the pressure is developed in the roots due to a continuous inflow of water which helps the plant sap upwards, and that pressure or the continuous movement of the water upwards is called the root pressure. And how come this root pressure is happening? The water, it constantly moves through the xylem up to the stem, because this happens due to the pull which is created by transpiration. Constant loss of water is happening. So constant loss of water, there is a requirement of water in the plants. So this transpiration is leading to this transpirational pull, which is in turn being created by the root pressure. Now water and minerals, they are absorbed by the roots and they are conducted upwards to the xylem to other parts of the plant such as stems, leaves and flowers. So this upward movement of the cell sap which contains water and minerals is called the ascent of sap. So what we can say, it is the upward movement of the cell sap, it is the upward movement of the cell sap, and which is containing water and minerals, which contains water and minerals. So this is called the ascent of sap. Okay, is it clear? Now we will just see the differences between the diffusion and osmosis. Now here I have given you the difference between diffusion and osmosis. It is very important. Just go through this. The movement of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane from a region of higher concentration to a lower concentration is osmosis. Whereas it is also a region from a region of higher concentration and to a lower concentration, but it is not through a semi-permeable membrane. Just remember that one. And it takes place only in liquid medium, osmosis, whereas diffusion can take place in any medium, solid, liquid and gas. The main difference is semi-permeable membrane is required in osmosis. It does not require any semi-permeable membrane in diffusion. Diffusion is always a faster process as it is in gases and slow in liquids, and this osmosis is a very slow process as it happens only in liquids. Now here is another main important difference between diffusion and active transport. So what is happening here? We can say that it is a movement of molecules from or ions, we can say, from a region of higher to lower concentration, whereas it is just an opposite. It is having a movement of ions from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration, and movement of solute or solvent molecules, movement of ions only and no water. Now in active transport, no water is being transported, it is only the ions. Now in active transport, the cell requires ATP. Now no cell energy is needed, and diffusion, it can happen without any cell energy, but in active transport the ATP of the cell energy is always needed. Now diffusion, it occurs through a non-living permeable membrane, whereas in active transport through a living selectively permeable membrane it occurs. Okay, so this is all for this part of transport in plants. So in the next part I'll be there with many more important things like transpiration, absorption and all. So please do subscribe to my channel for more updates in your ICSE Biology 8th standard. Stay tuned, stay updated with all my lessons. Thank you.